Warning: some contents may be disturbing. Viewer discretion is advised. I don't really know why I'm writing this, except that it still doesn't feel real, and everyone that I've told keeps saying, "You know what? You should share this so people know what red flags look like." So here I am. About 8 months ago, I moved into a new apartment complex. Nothing fancy, just a tired building with thin walls and a parking lot that never had enough spaces. I work weird hours, so most nights, I come home when everyone else is already asleep. About a week after I moved in, I started noticing this guy. Mid-30s maybe, average height, unremarkable clothes. Honestly, the kind of person your eyes slide right past. The only reason that I noticed him at all was because he always seemed to be outside when I came home. Just standing near the mailboxes, or smoking by the dumpster, or fiddling with his phone by the stairwell. I nodded once trying to be polite, and he gave this too quick smile, like he'd been waiting for me to acknowledge him. And that's when the small things started. I would hear footsteps pacing past my door at night, slow, calculated steps, and then nothing. A few minutes later, another pass. At first, I told myself that it was a neighbor who couldn't sleep. I even checked the peephole once, but the hallway was empty. And then my packages started going missing. Nothing expensive, but they would be marked as delivered, and yet they never show up. One afternoon, I went to the rental office to ask if they had seen anything. The woman behind the desk checked the locker logs, frowned, and then said, "Someone with your unit number has been picking them up." I told her that I hadn't. She looked uncomfortable, but she couldn't do anything without proof. I should have pushed harder. I should have asked for security footage. But I was tired, and honestly, I thought maybe they just misscanned things. The real turning point happened about 2 months in. It was around 1 a.m., and I was in bed scrolling on my phone when I heard a soft, almost polite tapping on my front door. Not knocking, tapping, like someone used a single finger. I froze. The tapping continued, spaced out in slow intervals. Tap, pause, tap, tap, pause. I slowly got up and I started walking to the door, and as I did, the tapping continued. Eventually, as I got closer, I heard him whisper. I heard, "Hey, I know you're awake." His voice was right on the other side of the door. I grabbed my phone and I called 911 without even speaking. I just whispered my address and I said that someone was trying to get into my apartment. And while I waited, he tried the doorknob again. It rattled so gently that it made my skin crawl. He then whispered again, "Come on, let me in. I just want to talk. I've been watching you." I don't think I've ever felt fear like that. Silent, cold, all-consuming. The police showed up within minutes, but by then the hallway was empty. They did a quick sweep of the building but didn't find anyone. I felt stupid telling them that I had never actually seen this guy's face that night. There were no cameras, no witnesses, nothing that they could act on. 2 days later, I got a note slid under my door. "You shouldn't have called them." And that was it. There was no name, no threats, just that. I didn't even pack. I grabbed a duffel bag and I left that night to stay with a friend. And the next morning, I broke my lease. I didn't care about the fees. But here's the part that still messes me up. When I was moving my stuff out in broad daylight with 2 friends helping, I finally saw him again. He was standing across the parking lot, pretending to talk on his phone, but he wasn't talking, and he wasn't even pretending very well. He was just staring at me with that same too eager smile. But the second that my friend turned to look, the guy dropped his gaze and then walked away quickly, disappearing behind another building. I never saw him again. I wish that I could say the police caught him or that I learned who he was, but I never got answers. I moved to a different part of the city with better security. It had cameras and people all around all the time. I'm still a bit jumpy. Any weird sound at night makes my heart race. But I'm safe for now, I think. If anyone reading this ever feels like something is off, please trust that feeling. Don't rationalize it. Don't try to be polite. I did, and to this day, I wonder how long he'd been watching me before I even noticed him, and what he would have done if that door hadn't been locked. I still think about this sometimes, usually when I'm in a crowd and feel that uneasy sensation at the back of my head, like someone is boring a hole into it, the kind you get when you feel like someone is staring. This happened years ago, but the memory stuck so sharply that I can still picture the exact shade of the concert lights when I first noticed him. I'm a female, and I was 22 at that time. I went to the show with two of my closest friends, not using their real names. Let's just call them Emma and Jess. We were in that early 20s phase where we were still obsessed with boy bands, and we had the adult money to see them live. We were hit by this phase pretty hard, so much so that we spent hours looking for ticket deals, and finding decent seats felt like winning a prize. So when we heard that My Chemical Romance was going to have a show, the question was not if we could go, but how much it would cost. Yes, we were in our emo phase. Don't judge us. Emma managed to find some at a decent price. Given that this was MCR, we all excitedly decided what we would wear to their live show. When the day came, we made our way to our seats. Our section was pretty packed, mostly girls our age, buzzing with energy. I remember Jess screaming her lungs out when Mikey got on stage. The music started, and everyone instantly stood up with their hands in the air. We were just having the time of our lives. But I think it was around the halfway point, and they were playing Disenchanted, when I just glanced around at the crowd, taking in how massive the concert was and appreciating how many people love MCR, when I spotted him. He was probably late 20s, early 30s, sitting alone 3 rows down. There was nothing weird about that. What was weird was that he wasn't looking at the stage at all. He was staring back directly at us. He was not scanning the area, not zoned out, just fixed. At first, I thought maybe he was looking past us, watching someone that he knew. But his eyes didn't shift, not once. I nudged Jess and she looked over long enough to stiffen a little. Probably just a creeper, she muttered. I laughed it off, even though my stomach felt uncomfortably tight. It wasn't like he was doing anything, he was just looking. There was no reason for me to make a scene. So, I turned back to the stage and I let myself get pulled into the music again. At some point, I forgot about him. I danced, I screamed the lyrics with Emma, and it was honestly one of the best concerts that I have ever been to. But near the end, when they slowed things down playing I Don't Love You, I found myself drifting out of the moment again. I glanced back toward that section without even really thinking. And he was still staring. Same expression, same posture, like he hadn't moved in over an hour. This time, his eyes locked onto mine instantly, like he had been waiting for me to look. My whole body went cold, but once again, he didn't do anything. He didn't wave, didn't smile, didn't even adjust his weight, just watched me. I didn't tell the girls because what was there to tell? Some guy is existing weirdly? It sounded ridiculous even in my head. When the show ended and everyone started filing towards the exits, I didn't think about him again, not until we reached the parking lot. Jess was unlocking her car and Emma was rambling about the merch that she wished she had bought. When I felt that unease that I was talking about before, the one that you get when someone is staring at you, so I turned around, and lo and behold, he was there. Not close, but close enough that I knew he would come out around the same time that we did, and he wasn't walking to his car. He was just standing, facing us. I tried to play it cool, and I told the girls, "Let's just get in the car, quickly." They didn't question me, and maybe something in my voice gave me away. We got in, locked the doors immediately. I kept my head down pretending to text, but my eyes flicked up to the rearview mirror. Emma was asking what was up, but I think Jess spotted the guy. He was walking now, not toward us, but to a nearby car, getting in and cruising behind us, and every time that we switched rows, he switched too. As we pulled out, I hoped that that was the end of it, that he would just go back to wherever he had come from and I would never see him again. But when we turned onto the main road, Jess cursed under her breath. There was a car behind us, same make as the one that he had gotten into. He kept the same distance. None of us talked at first. Maybe we were hoping we were wrong, but every time we made a turn, he made it too. Jess finally swung into a brightly lit gas station without signaling, and the car behind us drove past, slowly, almost reluctantly. And then it was gone. We waited inside the gas station for almost an hour before driving home, and nobody talked about it for the rest of the night. Actually, we didn't talk about it at all. Well, you might think we were blowing things out of proportion. When you see things on the news about what happens to some people, it's a scary thought. I still don't know what he wanted or why he chose us or why he stared that way, like he wasn't interested in the show at all, only in watching us breathe and blink and exist. But I do know one thing. If you notice something that's off, trust that feeling, because trusting mine might have saved us that night. So, to the creep from the concert, let's not meet again. I moved into my neighborhood about 2 years ago. It's a quiet place, mostly families and a few retirees. My job gives me weird schedules, so I usually walk my dog early in the morning, just after sunrise, or late in the evening when the streets calm down. Whatever works for the day. For the most part, it's really peaceful. People nod, smile sometimes, but they keep to themselves mostly. There was, however, this one guy that I used to keep seeing around when I went for these walks. He looked middle-aged, maybe late 40s, always in the same gray windbreaker no matter the weather. He had a big black dog, a Corso or Mastiff I think. I never saw it bark once though, so it was well trained I assume. But the man stuck out to me, not just because of the dog, but because he walked extremely slow, like he had nowhere to be, and he always looked around more than at his dog. The first few times we crossed paths, he just gave me a look that lasted a little too long. Not mean, not friendly, just observant, if you get what I mean. Eventually, he started trying to chat, but I'm not really much for small talk with strangers, even when I'm walking my dog. But he had this habit of stepping slightly into my path, almost forcing me to slow down. He would make small comments about the weather or how quiet the street was. I would just nod, give a short answer, and then keep moving. At first, I tried not to be rude. He seemed harmless, probably wanted someone he could talk to as a fellow dog owner, given that I didn't see any other dog walkers in the area. But then, the more our paths crossed, and the more he made small talk, he started mentioning things, little details about my life that I didn't remember ever saying out loud. He would casually bring up the time that he always saw me leave for work, or how I seemed to have Fridays off often, or how my trash bin was always empty on Thursdays. He's not my direct neighbor, we just live on the same street, so he had no reason to know which house was mine. The things he made comments about are things that could have only been known if he had been watching closely, too closely. I brushed it off. People notice neighbors all the time, and that's what I told myself. Plus, I live alone, and I've learned that sometimes people get curious about that, especially in family areas like this one. Still, something about the way he talked made me very uncomfortable. It wasn't what he said, it was the confidence in the way he said it, like he was keeping track and he was doing a good job at it. One evening, I took my dog out later than usual. It was already dark, and most houses had their porch lights off. Halfway down the block, I saw that gray windbreaker by the corner. He wasn't walking though. He was just standing there with a leash slack in his hand. His dog sat next to him, staring straight ahead. I slowed down, but I didn't want to turn around and make it obvious, so I just kept walking, pretending that I didn't notice him. And as I passed, he didn't say anything. He just turned his head slightly and watched me the entire time. I could feel his eyes on my back long after I walked past, and my dog kept looking over her shoulder too, ears back. I just picked up the pace, and I took a longer route home. Over the next week, I changed my walking schedule. Every time that I left the house with my dog, I felt this pressure in my chest, like eyes were somewhere nearby. I didn't see him though, not once, not at all. That made me feel stupid for being scared. Maybe I was overreacting? Maybe he was just socially awkward. But then one afternoon, something strange happened. I work from home some days, and on those days, I walk my dog around lunchtime. I stepped into my backyard to let her sniff around before we went out. The yard is surrounded by a wooden fence. The gaps between each piece of wood were thin enough that you can't really see into anyone else's property unless you're standing right up against it, save a few parts where the wood had knotted holes in it. My dog froze halfway across the yard. Her ears perked up, and then she growled. Not her usual low, playful rumble. This was deep, steady, the kind she only makes when she's scared or warning me of something. She stared at one section of the fence, her whole body rigid. I followed her gaze, and there, pressed into one of those holes in the wood, I saw an eye. Just one eye, pressed close enough that the skin around it was squished. Someone was standing inches from my fence, peeking through. I couldn't move. My chest felt tight and hot, and for a second, I honestly thought that I was imagining it. But then the eye blinked, slowly, like the person on the other side wasn't startled at all, like they had all the time in the world. My dog barked, loud and sharp, and the eye disappeared. I didn't hear footsteps running away, I didn't hear a gate or a car or anything, just silence. I went inside, locked the back door, and I stayed in the living room with my dog until my heartbeat slowed down. After 10 minutes, I crept to the window and checked the yard. Nothing. No sign of anyone. I didn't call anyone. I didn't even tell a friend. I felt stupid, embarrassed. What was I supposed to say? That a neighbor might be watching me through my fence? It sounded dramatic. Maybe it wasn't the guy. Maybe it was a kid or someone cutting through the yards. I convinced myself of that for a few days, and I even went back to normal walks. One night, I woke up around 2 a.m. I was thirsty, and I reached for my water, but before I could take a sip, my dog lifted her head from the floor next to my bed. Her ears went straight up, and she stared at the bedroom door. Not growling, just listening. After a few seconds passed, I heard it too. Soft footsteps outside my house. Not on the porch, not on the side of the house, moving slowly along the wall. My dog stood up, muscles tense, tail straight behind her. I held her collar without even realizing I'd moved, and the footsteps stopped right by my bedroom window. My blinds were down though, but there was a faint shadow shifting behind them. Just a shape, motionless. I didn't move, my dog didn't move, and it felt like the entire world went silent. And after maybe 20 seconds, the shadow shifted again, then drifted away. The footsteps moved toward the backyard. I sat there frozen until I finally heard the sound of the gate creaking open. The next morning, I walked the perimeter of my yard. The gate latch hangs at a certain angle when someone opens it and doesn't close it properly. And that's how I found it. The latch was sitting crooked, not locked in place. That was the last time that I ever saw signs of him. I never saw the guy in the gray windbreaker or the black dog he walked. It was like he just disappeared. But sometimes, when I'm walking my dog late in the evening, I get this strange feeling that someone is keeping pace with me from far away. Someone who knows my routines, who knows that I live alone, who knows the exact slat in my fence that's wide enough to look through. I don't think he stopped watching. I think he just got better at hiding. And here's the riddle for this video. Hey everyone, this is your creepy sister. Thank you so much for watching the video. I do hope you enjoyed it. Also, don't forget to leave a like and a comment. It really helps the channel out. A big shout out to both my channel members and Patreon members. Thank you so much for taking your support to the next level. You guys are great. And again, to everyone, stay scared because your fear feeds me.